Hi, my name is Gina, and I am restarting my YouTube channel. And I thought the best way to do it would be to tell you a little bit more about myself. And since this channel is mostly going to be about me as a mom and the things that moms go through and the things that I have learned over the years, I thought that I would share my story about how I became a mom. Because even though I think most people who know me think that it was probably simple and easy to just like have 4 kids, that is not my story. Only the closest people to me know that 3 out of our first 4 pregnancies ended in a miscarriage. And so to be a mother of 4 now is such a blessing, but it took us a while to get there. I thought that I would share my diagnosis and what the doctors found was going on with me and my body, and also the solution and how we were able to have 4 children and become a family of 6. So let me just start from the beginning. I've been married for 23 years, and we have 4 kids. This past school year, we had one in elementary school, one in middle school, one in high school, and one in college. So we have a nice big spread of kids there. And originally, I wanted to have my kids even closer in age because even though I am the oldest of 4, most of my siblings are a lot younger than me. So, about 2 years after my husband and I got married, we decided to start a family, and we were very excited about that. We did all the whole, taking the basal body temperature in the morning to figure out when I was ovulating so that I could get pregnant. And to be honest, we're blessed in that we never had the problem of not being able to get pregnant. We were able to get pregnant probably within the first 2 to 3 months of trying. So that was not our issue. Our issue was not getting pregnant. Our issue was staying pregnant. And so the first time we got pregnant, you're always excited, right? And so we told our families, we celebrated, we got a cake, just because I think for anyone, if you're trying to start a family and you finally get pregnant, there's excitement about, this baby that you are imagining what they're going to look like and how they're going to be and how your family's going to be once you get started. So we were excited. We told family, and probably around week 7 or 8, started spotting, eventually had a miscarriage. And that was devastating. As anyone who's gone through a miscarriage, you have that hope, you have that excitement, you're starting to plan for a family, and then it's gone. That's over. And that was really hard to deal with. I was even more concerned because, unfortunately, on my dad's side of the family, there is a history of women not being able to have biological children of their own. It seems to kind of run a couple of generations in of women who have had this difficulty. And so there was a lot of fear there, along with the sadness and grief that we were dealing with. So after that first miscarriage, I tend to be a pessimist. My husband's a little more of an optimist, and he was like, well, okay, that didn't work out. This is very sad for us, but we can try again. And so we didn't wait too long. We waited a couple months, tried again, and within about 2 months, we were pregnant again. But this time, I didn't really want to share with people because I wasn't sure how it was going to work out. I think most doctors are used to seeing people go through miscarriages. It tends to be common for people to have maybe a miscarriage while they're trying to have children. And I think they become kind of desensitized to the situation. And it's just kind of like, well, it happens. Just try again. And so when we got pregnant the second time, there was some excitement, but for me, there was a lot of fear that it just was not going to work out. When around 7 weeks or so, I didn't spot this time. I'm sorry if this is too much information, but just to share exactly what happened. I went to the bathroom and I passed several large blood clots. So this time it wasn't spotting, it was blood clots, and they were big. And I just knew that I was having another miscarriage. And I was immediately devastated. Like, this just is not going to happen for us. And so went into our doctor again, and they did a sonogram, and the baby was there and seemed to be okay. They gave us the little photos and were like, okay, so we can see, they could see where the blood clots came from. They were around in the uterus near the baby. But the baby seemed to be okay. We had that baby. That was our first child, Morgan. And she was a little sick when she was born. She was the smallest of our kids. But I didn't have any more issues during that pregnancy. I carried her to term. I think she was born maybe 2 days before she was due. So there weren't any issues. She was very jaundiced, but I think my husband and I have some kind of blood incompatibility where all of our kids had jaundice. Hers was the worst. But she was born with no problem. So it was a happy situation. We were very happy that we were able to have that child. And so our plan was to have our kids kind of close in age, so that when Morgan was about a year old, we decided that we were going to start trying for another. A little after she turned 1, we tried again, and within a couple of months, we were pregnant. And it was exciting. And we were like, okay, well, we're good. We've had a baby. My body should be good with it now. We shouldn't have to worry about things. But around 11, 12 weeks this time, so I got further along with this pregnancy, we had another miscarriage. And this was the most painful miscarriage of the miscarriages that I had gone through. And that was hard because I thought that since we were able to have one, that we were good and we weren't going to have to deal with this again. We had the miscarriage, and it was hard because it was another miscarriage, and it felt like, okay, not again. But also, I had our daughter to focus on, so it wasn't quite like the first one where it felt like, okay, well, we'll never have a family. We had a family. We had a child. But I really wanted her to have siblings close to her age to play with, because even though I'm one of 4, my closest sibling to me is 7 years younger than me. And then my other 2 siblings are 15 and 17 years younger than me. So I did not really grow up with people to play with her. I really wanted her to grow up, and like when we go on vacations, to have someone to play with at the beach or to play with in the pool, and someone to sit with at the dinner table and talk to, and not to just kind of be alone. And so that was really hard. But again, my husband, the optimist, was like, well, we've went through this before and we can try again. We tried again. And then for the third time, around 8 weeks, I had another miscarriage. So 4 pregnancies, 1 baby, 3 miscarriages. And that was really hard. And I think I was just done. I was like, I don't want to try anymore for a while. I don't want to do this. We'll just focus on our family, what we have now, Morgan, and, do things with her. I don't think I mentioned that when we had Morgan, I decided to put a pause on my career and be a stay-at-home mom. So I was a stay-at-home mom at this time. And so probably about a year after that last miscarriage, Morgan is now 2.5. And I was hoping that we would have siblings for her around this age. But after a year, I um, felt like I was ready to try again. And my doctors had seen me go through these losses and they were there for the crying and the pain. And so they were like, well, you've had 3 miscarriages. And I think for them at this point, it's like, okay, there's probably an issue. We should look into what could be going on with you and how we can have you help you have another successful pregnancy. And so they recommended a fertility doctor. And usually you would think fertility doctors are for people who just can't even get pregnant. But apparently, when you have miscarriages, they can help with those issues as well. So we went to a fertility doctor, and they did several tests. They took blood. A lot of the blood tests were to like see how my hormone levels were. So for some women, I think they have like low progesterone, so that's something that can be used to help avoid miscarriages. I think they looked to do like ultrasounds. They did something with dyes and like dilated my cervix. A lot of it was really kind of painful. They did a lot of things and they couldn't really pinpoint one thing in particular, but there was something in one of my blood tests that seemed to point towards possibly that there could be a clotting issue during pregnancy. And when they said that, I thought back to when I was pregnant with her, and I passed those blood clots, and I thought that I was going to have a miscarriage. And it was like, I wonder if we were able to have her because I passed those blood clots. They had a guess on what the problem was, and their thought process was, well, okay, let's see if when you get pregnant, if we deploy these protocols for you, that if you have a successful pregnancy, then we'll know that this was the issue. So I don't know if I was very hopeful because it wasn't like concrete. But I still really wanted to have more kids, and so I was willing to try. So here was my diagnosis. And now, being a mama of 4, we know that this was my issue because the solutions worked for me. And so they said that I had thrombophilia. Thrombophilia, I'd never heard of that. But basically what it comes down to is that when I get pregnant, the pregnancy hormones that allow the baby to grow and for me to carry the child also cause my body to create blood clots in the areas where the hormones are most prevalent, which would be the uterus and the placenta. And those blood clots then go to basically cut off oxygen and blood flow to the baby, essentially killing my babies, then cause the miscarriages. And so they said it was thrombophilia with a protein S deficiency. So the solution that they found for this situation and for this problem would be blood thinners. And so they prescribed Lovenox. Lovenox is a blood thinner. And actually for the first pregnancy, I did Lovenox and then heparin. But let me just say that they gave us a prescription because they said, well, before you get pregnant, we want you to have this medication so that as soon as you find out that you are pregnant, you can start using it. It's something where you need to start it as soon as you get pregnant or as soon as you know that you're pregnant, and it has to be continued for 6 weeks after you have a baby so that even though the baby's fine, those blood clots don't kill you while you still have those hormones in your body. And so we took the prescription. We went to a pharmacy that they recommended that wasn't too far away from the hospital. We found out that this medication was going to be about $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month. And mind you, I'm a stay-at-home mom now. So we're living off of one income. We already have a child. And that was a bit much. So my husband and I, we looked at each other like, I don't know if we're going to be able to do this. That's a lot. But at the same time that we were going through this, we had a family member who was going through IVF, and she also had to buy some pretty pricey medications for her process. And she told us about how she does mail order. There are mail order pharmacies, a lot of them that work with health insurance. And I don't know exactly how it works, but it's cheaper. And so we contacted our health insurance, and sure enough, they had a mail order pharmacy that they work with. And for me, it was CVS Caremark. There are several others. And so when we contacted them, letting them know who our health insurance was, we found out that the $1,000 a month blood thinners, Lovenox that we needed to use, that it was more like it was less than $100 for a 3-month supply. What? Like, okay. So we were good. This is one of the syringes. It's a reminder of how we were able to have the family that we have now. We were able to order the Lovenox. We tried again, got pregnant within 2 months. And when we went in for the blood test to see if I was pregnant and for them to do sonogram and everything, and I was pregnant, we used the Lovenox, and sure enough, we had a successful pregnancy. There were no issues, and this was the solution to my problem. But our first pregnancy, I had a C-section. I was in labor for 19 hours with Morgan before I had to have a C-section. But because I'd had a C-section before and I was going to have a C-section again, the issue with the Lovenox is that it's a blood thinner, and C-section is major surgery. And you don't want to be on a blood thinner going through major surgery. You can bleed out. And so near the end of that first pregnancy, they put me on heparin, which does the same thing, but it does not last as long. So instead of lasting for 24 hours, it lasts for 12 hours. So it was something that I had to take twice a day for the last couple of weeks of my pregnancy. That was painful. It was already painful because the bigger your belly gets when you're pregnant and you're trying to find a place to stick yourself, because that's where you get the needles, basically right where your uterus is. There was a lot of bruising. It was very painful. But for me, it was absolutely worth it. And so then we had Teddy. He and Morgan are about 3.5 years apart in age. So not as close as we wanted. But they're still close. And so then, because I have C-sections, because I have to do the Lovenox, all of our kids are about 3 years apart in age now. I needed it mentally, I hate needles. It's painful. It's kind of like I had to psych myself up each time that I was pregnant, knowing that I was going to have to take these needles in order to have the babies, but it was absolutely worth it. That's my story, and we are the parents of 4, and they hang out, and we do vacations, and they play Roblox and video games together, and they do Monopoly and Just Dance. And even though they're not super close in age, the fact that they are like every 3 years, it kind of bridges the gap between like the oldest and the youngest, and they just have such a good time together. And I am just so grateful to be able to be a mom of four. Hopefully, my story, my process, everything that I learned, hopefully it was helpful for you. Maybe you learned something. Maybe it'll give you some hope. But that's my story. That's who I am as a mom. Again, my name is Gina. I am restarting this channel, and I hope to share so many things. When I first started this channel, I was in the midst of just becoming an autism mom. So that was like my main focus. And that's something that I will still share on this channel, but also how you deal as a mom with neurodivergent children, along with typically developing kids, and being a stay-at-home mom and going back to the workforce, and weight loss and weight gain and going on vacations and all the fun things that moms deal with on a regular. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you think it would be helpful for someone else, please give us a like so that other people can find it. Thank you for listening to my story. These vlogs are made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.